The Apple HomePod is finally here. I've been anticipating a speaker like this from Apple since November of 2014 when I first got the original Amazon Echo. Yeah, it's taken a little over 3 years for Apple to jump into the smart speaker space, and now that it has, it's stressing sound quality over smarts. We know that Apple likes to perfect something before they bring a new product to market, so I'm not shocked it took this long for the HomePod to arrive, but did they get it right? That's what we're going to explore in this review. Some things will come as a surprise, others won't, and well, it's just kind of complicated, so let's get to it. The out-of-box experience is more or less what you'd expect, except it really takes no time at all. You pull out the speaker and you're done. There's a little product card and that's it, no pomp or circumstance. The speaker itself feels great. It's heavy, about 5.5 pounds, and that's because of the huge magnets on the driver's inside and the robust cabinetry. The thing is built like a tank, and it needs to be if it's going to produce big bass, which, spoiler alert, it totally does. More on that in a second. The power supply is built into the speaker as well, which means there's no brick to hide. Thanks for that, Apple. And the power cord is covered in a braided textile, which brings some class to the speaker. The soft material used for the speaker grille looks great and feels great too, and Apple says it's acoustically transparent, so it doesn't alter the sound quality. So we've established that it looks and feels great. Now let's get the HomePod set up. First, grab your iPhone. What, you don't have an iPhone? Well, that could be a problem. You need an iPhone, an iPad, or an iPod Touch in order to set up this speaker. And it needs to be running iOS 11.2.5 or later. You need an Apple ID. You definitely want to have an Apple Music subscription. And, you know, I suppose that you could borrow somebody's iPhone, but are you really going to do that for this speaker? We're starting to learn now that you need to be firmly embedded in the Apple ecosystem to even have an interest in the HomePod. Go ahead and plug the HomePod in, and while it's warming up, go into your settings, click Apple ID and go into iCloud settings, and make sure that you have keychain turned on. You also want to make sure that you have two-factor authentication turned on as well, and make sure you have the HomeKit app and Apple Music installed in case you removed them earlier. So you want to make sure that you're connected to the right Wi-Fi router and that Bluetooth is turned on, and then just like the AirPods, when you place the phone or iPad or iPod Touch next to the speaker, setup's going to start automatically. Just sort of allow it to go forward. You can specify whether you want it to be a bedroom, bathroom, or in this case we'll choose dining room speaker. And it's going to make a number of personal requests. It can connect to your messages, notifications, and reminders. We'll enable that for now. We'll agree to the terms and conditions, and it's going to set up a number of different accounts, including iTunes and Apple Music. It'll also transfer the settings for your Wi-Fi router so that it can automatically connect to the internet. And then you're off to the races.
Welcome to HomePod. You can't tell, but I'm waving. To get my attention, say, "Hey Siri." Let's try it. Say, "Hey Siri, what can you do?"
Hey Siri, what can you do?
I can do lots of things, like turn on the lights, give you a news update, and tell you about the weather. Now you try. Say, "Hey Siri, play some music."
Hey Siri, play some music.
Okay, here's a personal radio station built just for you, starting with Miles Davis. Remember, anytime you have a question, just say, "Hey Siri."
Hey Siri, tell me more about this artist.
I found 5 on Wikipedia: Miles Davis, Sonny Rollins, Art Blakey, Jackie McLean, and Tommy Potter.
Now, if you're still with us, I presume it's because you have an iPhone or other Apple device and you love Apple Music, because that's the only way you're going to be playing music with voice commands. There's no support for any other music service with the voice commands. Now, you can play Spotify and YouTube and other apps using AirPlay through various different Apple devices, but there's no Bluetooth and there's no auxiliary in jack, so there's no way to connect any other kind of phone. You've seen Siri can answer, a long list of questions about the weather or US history, like other smart speakers, but her real value is in playing music and controlling IoT devices like smart lights and smart door locks and smart thermostats, all through Apple HomeKit. I do like HomeKit for its ease of use. If you have a device that works with HomeKit, and there are a lot of them, then you pop into HomeKit and make sure all your devices are registered, and then you can just set up scenes like Good Morning, which can turn on the lights in the kitchen, start a kettle or coffee maker, and start playing a morning playlist if you want. The HomePod can also serve as a speakerphone for your iPhone calls, and it can read and dictate your text messages so you can respond to people hands-free. It'll also let you set alarms and reminders. It's like CarPlay, but way better. Now, there isn't any voice recognition service for the HomePod, at least not yet, which could cause some concerns about security. But Apple says in order for Siri to do anything through your phone, both devices have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. So don't worry about people sending messages in your name without you knowing. Also, Apple says almost all the info that gets passed back and forth from the HomePod over the internet is secured and anonymous. The only info Siri shares with Apple is your listening history, which it uses to build customized playlists to suit your taste. I know we've already covered a lot about what the HomePod can and can't do, but we're just getting started. Let's talk about sound quality a little bit, and we're actually going to start with the A8 processor that's inside. That chip is responsible for constantly monitoring the HomePod's surroundings. It knows where it is in the room and what the acoustics of that room are like. So let's say that we placed it close to a corner. That would naturally amp up the bass frequencies. The HomePod's going to react by kind of smoothing those out so you get a rich full bass sound, but it's not too boomy. It does like about 6 inches away from the back wall. Otherwise, you can be pretty liberal about where you want to place it. And because it uses beamforming and constant EQ adjustment, it's supposed to sound great throughout the room. And indeed, that's been our experience. As promised, the HomePod sounds excellent. It uses a 4-inch woofer with 20mm excursion to really move some air. There's 8 tweeters all around this thing, and each one gets its own individual amplification. We set the HomePod up against an Amazon Echo 2nd Gen, Google Max, and a Sonos One, and here's how that worked out. The HomePod absolutely blows the Echo out of the water. It sounds cleaner and more balanced than the Google Max, but it's every bit as powerful, and it matches some of the Sonos One's excellent sonic attributes while sounding bigger and a lot less directional. The Sonos One goes as deep in the bass as the HomePod does, but the HomePod has a bigger, fuller, more robust sound thanks to some amped up mid-bass. The HomePod is also really good at that 360-degree sound everywhere thing that others have tried to create but failed. Apple obviously feels differently though. The speaker is not made for everyone. It's made for iPhone owners who love Apple Music and are otherwise into the Apple ecosystem. If you're one of those folks, I can wholeheartedly recommend this speaker. It sounds excellent. If you are, as Apple suspects, somebody who already uses Apple Music in an iPhone and just want a great sounding speaker to play music from the same place you already get it from, great. HomePod is for you. For pretty much anyone else though, I don't think this speaker is the right choice. And that's really too bad because this is the best sounding compact smart speaker we've heard so far. Apple did some real innovating there. They just didn't make the innovation available to everyone.